All right, so today we're diving into something a little different than usual.
Interesting.
The world of funeral attendants.
Yeah.
Not your typical 9 to 5.
Right.
Not the most upbeat subject.
Mhm.
But I think we all gotta admit,
Yeah.
everyone's a little curious about this kind of stuff.
Of course. Death is a big part of life,
Exactly.
even if we don't like to think about it all the time.
For sure. And this is like the
Yeah.
ultimate life event.
Yeah,
So much goes into it.
absolutely.
And we're going behind the scenes today with RoleCatcher.
Good resource.
Yeah, they're like the career experts.
Mm-hmm.
And their guide on funeral attendants, it really stood out to me.
Interesting stuff in there.
Especially this whole thing about
Yeah.
like tailoring your resume
Oh, yeah.
for specific funerals.
Interesting.
Is that a real thing?
It is a real thing.
Okay.
And it makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Okay.
Because the whole thing with this job is respect and dignity.
Yes.
It's paramount.
Okay.
And RoleCatcher actually says it really well in their guide.
Okay.
They say,
Okay.
each funeral is a deeply personal reflection of the life lived.
That's true.
So your resume isn't just, your skills and experience.
Right.
It's about showing you get it.
Showing you understand.
You understand the family,
Right.
the traditions,
Yeah.
the deceased's background.
Okay.
It's a lot more than just
Gosh.
showing up.
Yeah. So it's not just about
Right.
being able to like lift the casket.
It's about being sensitive
Okay.
to those individual circumstances.
Right.
And you know what's really cool?
What's that?
RoleCatcher actually has AI that helps tailor your resume
Oh, wow.
for cultural sensitivity.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it might
Wow.
suggest
Okay.
like highlighting if you've worked with different religious communities.
That makes sense.
Or if you speak another language that's
Right.
relevant to the family.
Yeah.
It's all about blending in, being a subtle source of support during
Yeah.
a very emotional time.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're
Yeah.
not the focus. You're like the stage manager
That's a great way to put it.
for this final act.
Right. You're making sure everything runs smoothly,
Yeah.
respectfully.
Yeah. And honoring the individual.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a powerful way to think about it. I'm already seeing like there's a lot more to this job
Oh, yeah?
than meets the eye.
For sure.
And speaking of which,
Yeah.
this guide also talks about the physical demands, like strength and stamina.
Right, because you
Sure.
are handling caskets.
Right. Are we talking like
Sure.
Olympic weightlifting levels?
Well,
Should I be hitting the gym?
it is physically demanding.
Okay.
No doubt about that.
Okay.
You're moving things, you're assisting with things.
Right.
But I think what's surprised me reading through RoleCatcher's guide was the equal emphasis on emotional intelligence.
Oh, wow.
Because you're not just
Yeah.
moving furniture, right?
Sure.
You're interacting with people
Yeah.
at their most vulnerable.
Yeah. That's got to be tough.
It is.
And that's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because RoleCatcher,
Okay.
they include these
Yeah.
sample interview questions.
Oh,
and
sure.
they're all
Right.
about handling difficult emotional situations.
That's good practice.
So now I'm dying to know,
Yeah.
like, what kind of stuff are we talking about here?
Like what kinds of situations?
Yeah, are we talking like outbursts?
It depends.
Last minute requests?
See, every funeral's different.
Okay.
So you can have a small, intimate gathering.
Right.
Or a huge public one.
Okay.
Totally different dynamics.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the circumstances of the death.
That's true.
Was it sudden
Oh, yeah.
or a long illness?
Right.
All of that influences how people grieve and how an attendant needs to respond.
Wow.
So you got to be ready for anything.
So adaptability is key.
100%.
Ah.
And that's probably why
Yeah.
RoleCatcher stresses diplomacy.
Diplomacy.
Even more than they stress lifting caskets.
Interesting.
Think about that.
Wow.
You're navigating
Yeah.
potentially volatile situations,
Yeah.
cultural sensitivities,
Right.
and you're trying to maintain this
Yeah.
atmosphere of respect.
It's a lot.
It is.
Wow.
It's a lot to balance.
Yeah.
But it's such important work,
Yeah. It really is.
you know?
It really is. It really makes you think about like the human side of it all, you know?
It does.
It's not just logistics. It's like
Right.
you're helping people through
Insane.
a really
Increase
tough
everything.
time.
It's huge responsibility.
It is. And what's interesting is
Yeah.
the guide actually goes into like the career path,
Oh, yeah.
which I wasn't really
I wouldn't have thought about that.
expecting.
Yeah.
Like
You just kind of do it.
you do it until you don't.
Yeah.
But apparently there's like
Right.
room to grow.
According to RoleCatcher,
Okay.
you can go from entry level
Okay.
to senior attendant
Right.
and even eventually a supervisor.
A supervisor.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Right. in this context.
Yeah.
Like, what does a funeral supervisor do?
Right.
Well, I think it ties into what we were saying about
Okay.
how funerals are becoming more
Right.
personalized these days.
Right.
That's something RoleCatcher really emphasizes.
So it's not just like a set thing anymore.
Right. It's very tailored.
Right.
So you need someone who can oversee that whole process.
So they're like coordinating
Yeah.
teams and like
Design.
logistics and
Making sure every detail
wow.
reflects the life of the deceased.
So they're like somber event planners.
That's a good way to put it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So to get to that level,
Yeah.
are there any like specific qualifications
Oh, yeah, definitely.
or training?
And this is where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Remember we were talking about those
Oh,
funeral
mhm.
service assistant certificates?
Yeah. I had no idea that was a thing.
I know, right?
It's like its own whole
It's like a whole thing.
with specializations and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as the industry evolves,
Yeah.
those specializations are becoming more and more important.
So like, well, give me
Yeah.
an example.
Well, for example, RoleCatcher mentions that like
Yeah.
eco-friendliness is a big trend now
Oh, interesting.
in the funeral industry,
Okay.
which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah.
So somebody needs to know
Right.
about biodegradable caskets.
Oh. Right. And all these.
How I handle those.
Exactly. All the intricacies.
Wow, it's amazing how much goes into this
It really is.
that I just never even thought about.
It's a whole world
It is a whole world.
behind the scenes.
So we've learned a lot
Yeah.
about funeral attendants today.
Yeah.
But like, why does all this matter?
That's the big question, right?
Like most of us listening,
Yeah.
we're not going to go become
Right.
funeral directors.
But I think there are some
Okay.
really important takeaways here
Okay.
for everybody, no matter what you do.
Okay. I like that.
First of all,
Yeah.
it makes you appreciate
Yeah.
the unseen effort that
Yeah.
goes into these events.
Totally.
Like the next time you go to a funeral,
Okay.
you're going to notice things
Yes.
you didn't before.
You can be looking for these little details.
Exactly. All
Yeah.
those little subtle touches
Right.
that honor the deceased.
That's like a whole new
It is.
awareness.
Yeah.
I like that. And what else?
And second, I
Right.
think it reminds us that
Yeah.
every job,
Yeah.
no matter what it is,
Right.
has these hidden depths,
Yeah.
these skills that
Yeah.
we don't even think about. Oh, totally. And it makes you kind of want to
Exactly.
be more curious
Yes.
about every job.
About what's beneath the surface
Yeah.
of every profession.
It's true. And like, as we've been talking about this, I
Yeah.
can't help but think about like
Yeah.
the role of technology.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
Like RoleCatcher's whole thing
Right.
is like getting your resume
yeah.
in front of AI recruiters.
That's their whole thing.
It's like even in this job,
I know.
which is so human, you
Yeah.
got to think about the machines.
It's kind of crazy.
It is kind of crazy.
It really makes you wonder.
It does. It's like even in death, technology is like
Right.
taking over.
It's really strange to think about
It is.
because you have this very human thing.
Yeah.
This very human experience.
Yeah.
But then you have
Right. The algorithm.
the algorithms deciding.
Yeah. Is this the right person for the job?
It's kind of,
It's kind of unsettling
yeah. It is a little bit.
when you really think about it.
Yeah, like, can a machine
Right.
really understand?
Can it understand the nuances
Right.
of what it means to be human,
Yeah.
to grieve?
To comfort someone
Exactly.
who's going through loss.
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is a big question.
And it's something I think we're all going to be
Right.
thinking about more and more
Yeah.
as AI gets more sophisticated.
As it becomes more integrated
Exactly.
into our lives.
Yeah, even our final goodbyes.
Wow.
It's pretty wild when you think about it.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I got to say, coming
Yeah.
into this,
Yeah.
I thought I was just going to be learning about
Right.
like caskets. And,
Yeah, the logistics of it all.
Yeah.
You know,
But this has been like
it's really...
a whole reflection on life and death. And
Yeah, it's true.
it's true. It makes me think about
Yeah.
the bigger picture.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
It's been eye-opening for sure.
I'm glad.
So to our listeners out there,
Yeah.
the next time you're at a funeral,
Yeah.
take a moment to appreciate those funeral attendants.
They do such important work.
They really do, because they're not just there for like
Right.
the deceased. They're there for
Family.
the family, everyone who's grieving.
Everybody.
And they're making sure that that final goodbye is like,
meaningful.
is meaningful, is memorable.
Exactly.
It's a powerful thing.
It is.
And you know, it's a good reminder
It's that.
that every job,
Yeah.
no matter what it is,
Right.
deserves a closer look.
Because you never know.
You never know.
what you might find,
Exactly.
what you might learn.
Well said.
Thank you.
And on that note, I think we're going to wrap up this deep dive.
This has been a good one.
It has been a good one.
Yeah.
Into the surprisingly profound world
Who knew?
of funeral attendants.
Right.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. And
Yeah, thanks for listening.
until next time, keep exploring.
Keep learning.
Keep asking those big questions.
Absolutely.